Welcome to the LinkedIn Famous Podcast, the show where we get real about what it takes to build a personal brand on LinkedIn that gets real business results. We're talking about driving revenue from a personal LinkedIn profile by sharing real and authentic stories and points of view. I'm Brad Zomick, your host and the founder of Spectrumer, a personal brand consultancy that helps founders and executives get LinkedIn famous. Join me for unfiltered conversations from the trenches of LinkedIn. We'll meet CEOs, go-to-market executives, subject matter experts, and company employees with blockbuster LinkedIn results. We'll unpack strategy and leave you with tactical advice to grow your personal brand and demand for your company's products and services. All right, LinkedIn hustlers, it's time to level up. Hello, LinkedIn makers and movers. We have a fantastic guest with us today. Creating a personal brand is not exclusive to founders in the C-suite. So as we get deeper into this pod, we're going to meet a lot of cool people doing awesome things that aren't necessarily the CEO or the co-founder promoting their brand and products. Another unique dimension to this guest is that she is using LinkedIn solely for her personal brand and not using it to drive demand for the company directly. Nevertheless, LinkedIn enthusiasts, including myself, are obsessed with her hilarious LinkedIn video content. For anyone using LinkedIn to sell, there's a ton to learn from her comedic vertical video strategy and the goodwill it creates. In fact, if she were to promote a product, I would probably be one of the first to buy it. Before we welcome her to the pod officially, let's quickly dig into her background. Given the acting that she does, I was not surprised to learn that she worked as a character actor at Disney. These are the fun things you learn about people from their LinkedIn profile when you scroll down. And then she started her career as we know it today as an editor at Wiley on the For Dummies book series. I read a few of those in my day. That role landed her in content marketing at ExactTarget 3 months before it was acquired by Salesforce. She spent almost 12 years rising the ranks there to the title of Senior Director of Content Strategy at Salesforce, which is pretty impressive. She was overseeing editorial, social for Marketing Cloud. She was one of Salesforce's top bloggers. She created the Marketing Cloudcast podcast, co-authored the first Salesforce State of Marketing report, and was nominated as B2B Content Marketer of the Year by the Content Marketing Institute in 2019. Just in the last year, she moved over to Microsoft, where she is the head of content and integrated marketing for Microsoft. She oversees editorial content, social, and integrated campaigns. Last year, she went from flying under the radar to the talk of the town in B2B marketing circles with her vertical videos, also known as LinkToks. Her videos make fun of the state of marketing, which provides comic relief for marketers and the feeling of being seen. They are also highly educational, especially for those who might be doing the old way of content marketing still. As a result, she has a following of almost 25,000 followers. Those are all true fans. They're not fans of Salesforce or Microsoft because there's no software shilling. It's all comedy and education. They're powerful engagement tools. So with that in mind, let's welcome Heike Young to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Brad. The LinkedIn famous hat definitely got me here, but your wonderful intro will keep me here. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Is there anything in your background that you want to double click on?
Oh my gosh, I have this really cool Tess of the D'Urbervilles poster up here. If anybody else is an English literature major, you want to comment back on this YouTube video or wherever else telling me your favorite piece of British literature, I'd love to have that super nerdy conversation with you. But yeah, this is basically, it's a picture of a couple characters from the book, and then the picture is made up of the entire text of that work of literature.
That is very cool and very unexpected. Speaking of which, I always like to ask people to tell us something about yourself that the audience couldn't learn from you from LinkedIn, and you jumped the gun there, but you could answer something different. What is something that people might assume about you based on your LinkedIn that isn't true?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. And I loved in the intro how you really went way back and read, like back in college, my Disney college program participation. You went back to when I worked at Disney. This might be the first podcast episode I've ever been on where somebody brought that up. So thank you for doing that. It was a true blast from the past. Something you might not know about me is I am a dual American and Brazilian citizen. And yeah, my mom is from Brazil. And so I grew up taking some trips to Brazil. I have my entire mom's side of the family still lives there. And yeah, I think it just, if you're in content marketing, if you're in content creation at all, I think having a global perspective really behooves you. There's people from all around the world that might be looking at your stuff. And I don't know, for me, that's always been baked into my literal DNA, if you will, is trying to bring a global perspective to things.
That is very cool. Brazil has come up in my family this week. My daughter is 8 and she is learning about Brazil in third grade. But also, in my experience, Brazil is actually a pretty big software market. When I used to work at Pipedrive, the small business CRM, I didn't realize at the time I was competing with you, but we had a big SEO play to we translate the blog into Brazilian and tap into that market. And there's a big marketing community there.
It's a huge country. It's the size of America without Alaska, if I'm not mistaken. So it's huge.
That's awesome. So let's get into your LinkedIn journey. What motivated you to start investing in your LinkedIn presence as we know it today?
Brad, to be honest, in January 2024, when I started this journey, I was personally at a low point. Let me give you some insight as to where my head was at that time. I was on maternity leave with my second baby. I found the ramp up from 1 to 2 kids actually quite a bit harder than I expected. I'd been in the same job for a while. I needed a new pep in my step. And while I was very sleep deprived, I was definitely spending a lot of time at 2 or 3 in the morning, surfing YouTube, surfing TikTok. And simultaneously, I was having all these conversations with friends who were in content marketing and who were in B2B, who were just complaining about the state of B2B and the industry. And these things started to swirl together to make this idea in my head. What would it look like to post on LinkedIn? And what would it look like to do so in a video first way that was also, dare I say it, a little bit humorous? And so I wanted to create some content that I would personally enjoy watching. And if you look back at my post history before January 2024, there's not much to see. I had created a few videos before that, and I had certainly tested the waters, but it was pretty inconsistent over a 6 or 7 year period. And my motivations and goals started to solidify around 3 key things. Number one, let me take a second to bet on myself here. I need to put my voice out there. As you mentioned, in my career, I work at these big corporations and very lucky to have the role that I have had. But aside from just being the Salesforce girly or the Microsoft girly, I wasn't yet the Microsoft girly at that time. But aside from just being at Salesforce where I had been for 11 years, how can I create opportunities for myself and how can I put my voice out there more? And so that was number one. Number two, I was really motivated to be part of the creative process again. And so I had been in these content leadership roles where I was in the driver's seat and other people were creating. I was in the strategy role, creating the vision and the strategy, and other people were actually making the content. And I just wanted to have some skin in the game again around that and make things myself. And number three, I really wanted to learn video editing. I think just with the way that content is trending, content consumption habits and so on, the way that social is trending, I really didn't know how to edit videos myself, and it seemed like a really important skill to learn. And so what better way to do it than actually having to create it for myself?
I have a couple of kids that are older now, but I've been through that stage. Obviously, I'm not the one giving the feeding, but I was up a lot in the middle of the night. That first year is like a fog. And kudos to you for seeing the light in the fog. That's really impressive. I'm glad you did it because, I really enjoy your content. And honestly, I think some of your motivations really resonate for me as well.
She's like one now. She's a little older than one. And I would tell you, going back to your earlier question, what might you not know from looking at my LinkedIn? I have never, ever created a single video for LinkedIn that was not edited while I was nursing a baby. I have never edited a video on a computer. I have done every single thing on my phone, and it has always been while I'm nursing that baby. And I multitask. I do this in the wee hours, and I do this kind of in the overflow time whenever I have a second.
What does your process look like? Obviously, you mentioned the time when you do it, but I'm curious how you plan the ideas. Obviously, these videos they're very entertaining, but they're scripted like a sitcom, right?
The script is super important, and it all comes down to the writing. I think for me, good comedy writing has always been the thing that I appreciate most about my favorite comedians, my favorite SNL skits. It always, for me, comes down to the writing. Yeah, I'm always working on scripts. I have just Apple Notes like in iCloud on my phone or on my computer. I'm just editing them. all the time. When I first started on this journey, though, the biggest challenge that I faced was I actually did not know how to edit vertical videos or create these videos at all. I had this idea of these skit style funny videos, but I had no clue how to make one. I'd never made one before. I asked some of my friends, and so I had zero process. And so I asked some of my friends that were in social, shout out to Kyle and Max and some of my other friends who helped me in this journey. They literally told me to use CapCut. I didn't even know what that was. They were like, yeah, download TikTok, as I said, but I didn't know anything about CapCut. So they said, download CapCut, and that's what you're going to use to make these videos. They explained how the LinkedIn feed works and how the thumbnails and the superimposed play button would be in the middle of the video, and just some of these tactical things about the UI that I had no idea about, all the things that mattered to create a great video. I also did not know if this shit would be funny at all. So I remember texting some of my friends. I remember sending one of my first videos to Devin Reed, another friend of mine. I got a shout out and I was like, does this even resonate? Is this even funny? And he gave me great feedback too. And so a lot of people in my community definitely came through for me to support me in that time. And I'm a big admirer of people like Corporate Natalie and Corporate Bro. I love their accounts. I have screenshots saved on my phone. I still do, from like January 2024, where I would screenshot Corporate Bro's videos and I would just analyze the composition of them. And I would look at like the way he framed the shots to fit the captions. And then I would go back and try to film something later. And I'd be like, okay, did I take what he was doing and filter that through my lens? But did I achieve what he did and being able to show you his facial expressions and his hand gestures while also fitting in the captions and the UI elements? I was really trying to figure this out mathematically to land the jokes. And so the success of those accounts really motivated me to keep pushing through some of the challenges. I think that now in the early days, my process was just all of that, all of the above, figuring out how to make a video and going from there. My process now is I try to just ride the wave of the creative process. The more that I'm creating, the more I'm in a flow state, the more I can stay there. And I have 5 scripts that I'm working on all at once, and the ideas are like pouring out of me. And I will, if it's the middle of the night and an idea comes to me, I will put it in my phone right then because I just don't want to forget it. I try to just keep riding that wave, and that's where I'm in the best creative mindset. And my process is just ride the wave and try to vomit out as much as you can. And it doesn't matter if it's like a really bad first draft. Get out. Ian Hamley talks about like a very ugly first draft. Get out the ugly first draft and then go from there. And it's all, the scripts that I have that I'm working on all the time. And then just like other text posts that will lead me later to a script. It's very simple. It's very messy. If there's any project managers out there, you're like, I have a better way for you. Please let me know. There's probably systems that I could use. It's just like a connection of very loosely intertwined, but also in my mind, like they're very intertwined ideas. And then I have all these notes and scripts constantly going that I'm at varying states of completion. So one might be 10% done, another one 50% done. And then if I have time, it's like the afternoon. The kids are napping. I have a second to film a video. Oh, hurry. Put on some makeup really fast. Like, I better go film this video. That's the process.
That is a sentiment I agree with. You got to strike when the iron's hot, right? I think anyone who's in content or doing some creative work, there are certain times of the day where it's like magic, and it's cool that you found those times of blue flame thinking, because they're hard to come by, and those don't necessarily overlap with a project management system. Believe you me, like I started this content business over here too. I've gone through multiple iterations and trying checklists in Asana or ClickUp or whatnot. I duct tape it together between like lists of paper and lists in Notion and the project management system. Somehow it all works together.
I'm responsible for a big team of content creators, like multiple agencies that work for me making content. I have spreadsheets and systems in place for that. This is my playtime. So this is my fun time. And I try to not over-engineer it and leave it really fun for myself.
Yeah, I feel the same way when it's like your passion project. It's, I don't know, a whirling dervish is messy, but somehow it all comes out pretty beautiful. Or at least for your videos, I think they come out pretty awesome. They make me laugh. You have this process, you're putting out these videos, you built a following that's raving. Did you make any mistakes along the way? Or learnings, hopefully.
I can walk you through a major learning that I had early on in this process, and it has to do with the taste gap. Have you heard of the taste gap by Ira Glass?
No, tell me about this.
For anybody who's listening who has never heard this, and then for Brad, for your benefit as well, the taste gap. I pulled up this quote from Ira Glass in a different tab, and I'll read it to you, and then I'll walk you through my experience related to this. But this is a taste gap. And so this is what Ira Glass says. Nobody tells this to people who are beginners. I wish someone had told me. All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have good taste, but there is a gap for the first couple years. You make stuff, it's just not that good. It's trying to be good. It has potential. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, is still killer. And your taste is why your work disappoints you. And a lot of people never get past this. They quit. And then he goes on to say it's only by going through a volume of work that you will close that gap and your work will be as good as your ambitions. And so for me, a lot of the stuff I created initially was painful for me to post because it wasn't as good as my vision. I had this vision. I spent all this time watching Corporate Bro, and I loved his videos. I had this vision of doing something for B2B marketing with that same level of, it's like what makes it so good is his deep understanding of his audience and like the sales mindset. Like he is in it and he is like living that when he delivers this content to you. And I had the vision to do something that was like my take on that for marketing. And unfortunately, my abilities weren't as good as my vision. And I think what I learned is you got to post it anyways. I learned a lot. I still post things sometimes now that the perfectionist in me will say, let's pick this apart today. Let's tear this down to shreds and let's not post this because we don't have enough hours in the day to make this as good as you want, to do everything. But only through posting and creating do I learn. And so I keep going. And hopefully one day the taste gap will be far less in my work than it is today. Like I've closed the gap over the past year somewhat. And I have a lot more that I want to do. But that is, that kind of galvanizes me to keep going.
That's deep, but resonant. You mentioned, you have to go through a volume of work to understand and grow. Do you have any sort of, I guess, target, that you're trying to put out personally? I know you have a full-time job and this is what you do on the side. How do you, climb that and set goals?
When I first started doing this, my goal in January 2024 was one video per week. And I almost hit that, not quite. It was probably around 40 videos or something like that I did in 2024. And this year, I would like to do at least one video a week. Maybe some weeks I have a little bit more I can post. I'm also getting a little more creative with the types of content that I can put out there. For example, I shouted out Devin a few minutes ago. I was recently on my friend Devin's podcast. He runs this amazing podcast, Read Between the Lines. And that it was an incredible hour-long conversation, and he's given me permission to like post clips from that on my account. And so I can take little snippets from it, even if recently I got sick and I couldn't film a video that week. And so I was like, perfect. I have a clip from Devin's podcast that I can use to still meet my goals. It's around a video a week. And then sometimes I hope I can do a little bit more. I think there's such a misnomer around lo-fi video where there's this sense that it's easy to create that I hear from people sometimes. They're like, oh yeah, that's so cool. You just pull out your phone and film that on your phone. You don't even have a production team or a bunch of editors working with you or motion graphics and designers. It's just, you can whip out your phone and do that quick videos. And it's anybody who's listening to this, if you create this kind of content, or if you have TikTokers or YouTubers that you love, you will know that the best stuff is usually not quick. Of course, lightning can strike, and the demure video on TikTok, like mindful and demure, that person may have whipped out their phone one day and like the lightning struck and they had this amazing thought that didn't take a lot of forethought and planning to film that. But a lot of this content of your favorite creators, if they're doing this skit style content, they're going through so many revs and rounds of getting the script perfect for you, writing the hooks just right. When I film some of this stuff, I'm always thinking through, where's the text title going to fit in the video and like how can I position myself in the frame just so to get everything in there. It I will really rearrange the shot like multiple times to film it just the way that I want that kind of meets my vision. And so yeah, it's quick. It may be a quick video in the sense that it takes you 30 seconds to watch. It's certainly not quick for me. So if it were quick for me, that would be amazing. I wish I could make it quicker. Like I said, I'm working on some things that may make it a little faster if I have an existing podcast or something else I can pull from. But in general, my full production videos, like they're certainly not quick. And 1 to 2 videos a week is a pretty good target for me. And then I'm also experimenting a little bit more with some text posts just to add to my content mix. Because sometimes I can work on those even if that week I didn't have time to do the full filming, but I did have time to write something. I can also do some text posts. I would say another learning for you, Brad, for anybody that is big on numbers, a lot of us in big B2B marketing, we're really big on analytics and looking at the numbers and post performance and trying to get insights from that. In the early days of me posting this content, my text posts always outperform my videos every single time. I would post these videos and I put a lot of work into it. And I was also doing some text posts. And it was amazing because I had this vision. I was like, oh, I thought people would really like this and nobody's engaging with these videos. And it just wasn't the case. And so looking at the video performance, if I had looked at that alone, I would never have continued down this path. And so I really learned that the analytics are not everything. Early on, I was still developing my video audience. I was still developing my product, if you will, my video product that I offer my community on LinkedIn. And I noticed that videos, even though they were outperforming in impressions and engagement and all of that, I noticed that was where when I posted videos was when people really came out of the woodwork to tell me that they loved it. More and more, especially as I cultivated my craft, I learned that the videos got me DMs from people saying, hey, you really hit a nerve with that joke. Or maybe I didn't want to like it publicly because I didn't want my boss to see it because I wouldn't want them to see me laughing at that joke where you skewered some aspect of B2B marketing that we're really struggling with right now inside of my company. But I want you to know I loved it. And I sent it to my work bestie, like I sent it to somebody on Slack. So that was the fuel that I needed to stay on this path. And eventually, I talked about how the analytics early on, they didn't skew toward video. Eventually that flipped. And then the video work did become my biggest growth driver on the account. And now when brands reach out to me and say, hey, we want to do sponsored posts with you, they always want videos.
No surprise. So I want to circle back to the lo-fi video with easy content. And I'm nowhere near the depth of level of effort that you put into it with the
level of effort, level of insanity. Like yeah.
I agree. The first time I did video, it took me 3 months to actually publish one because I was sitting there in front of my phone saying it over and over again. So I realized how many cuts you probably take that just sit on the cutting room floor for you to get to something that we all laugh at. It's easy to sit here in conversations, the podcast, and clip those videos. It's a little bit more natural. Whereas you're speaking right into the camera with no cues from the audience.
Yeah, I watch them back a lot. I've learned early on too, if you're going to go down this path, making this kind of video, you have to get really comfortable watching yourself be embarrassing on camera. And it's just, nobody likes to watch or listen to themselves. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a Hollywood A-list celebrity. I guarantee you that the most gorgeous, funniest, most talented actors probably don't like watching themselves back. It's just not like a normal human thing that we all enjoy. But you have to get comfortable with it because I've been heartbroken too many times when I filmed something, didn't watch it back, went to go edit it later, and I just didn't get the take that I wanted and had to go back and redo it to make myself happy. Or God forbid, there was like an audio problem, like the microphone wasn't working, or there was like a hair that was like in the middle of my face, or I had a big stain on my shirt. You've got to take the time to watch the shit back if you're gonna go down this path. I'm so sorry to have to break it to you, but you have to.
How many hours do you think you spend? I'm sure that's gotten shorter, But it's easy to rattle off a text post in half an hour, but a video post, like how long do those take you?
It's so hard to say, Brad, because I'm always working on multiple things at once. I'm always multitasking. Like I've got like 3 scripts going and I'm like editing multiple ones. It's hard for me to say, distill it down to just one video. Okay, if I isolate to only this one video, how much time did the scripting take? How much time did, and I also sometimes I try to film a couple of videos at once. I would say if I had to break it down, and this is so hard, creator fan, my people who bleed creation, it's so hard because it's like your children. It's like, how can you even talk about it? 'Cause I'm in the middle of the night. I'm like thinking about things that I would edit differently in the script or whatever. It's like always on my mind. I would say I can usually film the videos pretty quickly now. Once I have a quiet place in my house, kids are nowhere nearby, and I have a chance to do it. I always do it when the script is locked and loaded. Like I'm 100% good on the script. I can film them quite fast. I probably have videos that I've filmed in like 12 minutes.
You use like a
Um,
teleprompter?
I film each couple lines separately because it's
Yeah.
just the fast cut style usually. And so I don't need to memorize more than a couple lines at a time. And so I just film my couple lines and then move on. Film my few lines and then move on. I can film them quite fast. The scripting part, it's like it could take a long time or it could come together really quickly. I have scripts that probably took me 5 minutes to write, but then I have other ones that probably took me, a couple hours. If they don't, but I guess if they only took me 5 minutes, that's like the iceberg image. It's like, what is 5 minutes of writing? What you don't see is all the meetings that I sat in where I was getting ideas that like later spawned into something with my script. Or you don't, it's like everything below that that led to me coming up with that funny line. I hope it's funny. If it's not, that's okay too. And anywhere from, there's probably like a good amount of a range there for scripting. And then the editing, it can also be pretty fast now that I've gotten better at it. Like I had a video the other day where I think I edited it in about a half an hour, which is like probably a new record. Early on, it would definitely take me hours, like 2 or 3 hours to edit the videos. If I can get some really clean takes, if it's just a minute long video and I have a few clean takes, like 3 to 4 clean takes per line, and I just go through, pick the best one, go through, pick the best one, I can do it pretty linearly now, and maybe at a minimum, maybe it take me a half hour. But on the low end, you're looking at an hour to make a video. On the high end, you could be looking at a lot more. Once we start getting into like day in the lifestyle videos where I had to film all day long, that is where the amount of time to create that is quite a commitment.
Yeah, you mentioned CapCut. I've used CapCut to script feed. They make it easier than ever to edit video,
Mhm.
but it's still not easy to make it, I don't know, cinematic and flow together with a great
Yeah,
story.
CapCut is great. That's like the number one thing I always tell people. People always ask me, I want to do this. How do I get started? Just download CapCut. I make silly videos of my kids sometimes and send them to their grandparents. I use
That's
CapCut
cute.
for everything.
You mentioned something in there. You were talking about how you like to fill the frame. When you're looking at the checklist close to production, is this ready to produce? What are those boxes that you are trying to check? Your content framework for making a post that you think is going to be set up best to perform.
Yes, I actually have distilled this down into kind of a 4-part framework that I can walk you through. And I thought about this a lot over the past year. And just like you said, what are the areas that I need to check off and just make sure I have covered for me to feel good about posting this? LinkedIn has made a lot of changes over the past year to their algorithm and to the UI. Every time I turn around my group chat of me and my friends that talk about LinkedIn stuff all the time, it's like popping off because LinkedIn does another change. They've been doing all kinds of things, right? To do the video feed and you flip up, and now there's more elements on the right side, or there's a gradient on the bottom of the video that's like covering up the caption. They keep doing, I think they're trying to optimize it, and I think they are doing some really good things, but just keep that in mind. I would always say, try, regardless of what I'm about to say, try it yourself. Try to actually test videos out, look at what's in your feed and what can you see or what's being covered up. Are you trying to watch a video and the UI elements are covering up half the captions? Okay, well, pay attention to that and make a safe zone in your head of like, I can film things in here, but not over here. Just vet what I'm about to say with what is really going on in the platform today.
Good point.
So right now, the way that I'm thinking about creating a video, there are 4 parts of this that I would be thinking about as you're doing this. The first part is like the text hook. So there's a text post that has to go with every video. What is that going to say? It's 100-ish characters, 150-ish characters. That appears under every video, and it's got to kind of pique people's interest to even click into the rest of, hopefully, the text post. And you have to put something there. This isn't YouTube where we could just upload a video with a title and description and be done. We have to put something in the text post. So I would think about, what do you want to dig into more? Is there something in the text post that can be complementary to what's in the video? Then there's the actual video title. I always think it's a good idea on LinkedIn to put some type of title, POV, content voice versus regular voice, or whatever. If you look at my videos, you'll always see there's a box where I superimpose some type of title of the video. I think that this really makes a difference and helps. People see a lot of videos in the new feed or in their old school feed that's a person's face with zero context. What's it going to be about? Many people, if you think about the intent of somebody on LinkedIn, maybe they're at work. They don't want to click on a video that's not work related or that's about some weird topic. They want it to be edutaining, perhaps, but they also want it to be relevant. So just explain what the video is. Just take a second and put a title on it. The next thing that I would think about is the actual visuals themselves. Are you holding something? I recently did a video where I was like watering a plant, and I got several comments or DMs from people that were like about the plant I was watering. Like, what can you put in there that just adds some visual interest to it? And it, a face is great. All that Mr. Beast thumbnail research taught us that faces perform really well. But is it a happy face? Is it a curious face? What are you going to be doing that, again, piques people's interest? And then the last thing I would think of is the captions themselves. So on LinkedIn, I think captions are really important. Like I said, a lot of people may be looking at this stuff while they're at work, or maybe they want it to be quiet because they're in a meeting and so they're just they're mindlessly scrolling a little bit while they're doing their multitasking. You want to show that there's captions from the outset so that people know it's safe to click on this with the audio down. And so I always extend my captions to the first frame, like 00, so that it shows right out the gate that there's going to be captions in this. And so I would really think about how those 4 things can all work together to create this immersive, coming at me from every angle, like I can't help but click on this.
Thank you for sharing that. Let's talk about a little bit about the impact that LinkedIn has had on your life in the past year. Was there any sort of unintended consequences of all this, your investment in vertical video on LinkedIn? Surprising, negative, positive?
Yeah. So when I first started doing this and I first started on this journey, I had some people early on when I started posting on LinkedIn tell me, you're investing all this time on this. You're not even getting paid to do this. Why are you doing this? It brought me joy. So I just kept doing it no matter what. And now I'm really glad that I did. I think it has paid off in some tangible ways and then also in less tangible ways. I have had the opportunity to do some, now in 2025, I have had the opportunity to do some brand sponsorships, which is really cool and something that I never thought that would be something I wanted to do. But when I first started on this path, but now I've had some brands that cost me equipment, time, resources to do this kind of work. And so a big outcome for me is just I'm so grateful that brands are wanting to support the work that I do and the creative process that I have for LinkedIn. In addition to having a day job and a mom life, just the fact that people want to support my work is so amazing. And it just helps me be able to give more into doing this. I also think that there's a career benefit. So when I kind of switched jobs, I would say in 2024 or 2025, these times that we are in, if you are in tech, you know that the job market is tough. That personal branding is important. I'm not saying everybody needs to go out and create LinkedIn videos to achieve their career goals. For me personally, however, my career goals are very wrapped up in content creation, social media. Like I lead a social media team right now. I think it really behooved me when I was going through this process of interviewing with Microsoft almost exactly a year ago. Actually, it was March of last year March of 2024, when I began interviewing for my current role at Microsoft. I just think being able to show the hiring manager and the team instead of just tell them, "Oh, yeah, I manage these things at Salesforce. Like, I know social, I know content." Being able to connect with those people on LinkedIn and show them in real life what I could do and my skill. I don't know for sure because I've never asked anyone on the hiring team, "What kind of an impact did that make in you hiring me? And what was it? Was it down to me and somebody else and they didn't have LinkedIn, but I did?" I'm sure it wasn't exactly that. I think I had a lot of the right qualifications for the role, but I also just think if you are in content, creative, marketing, some of these fields, it can really benefit you to show your work in real life, and LinkedIn is maybe a place where you might consider doing that, and so I do think that it probably benefited me in my career search to have this presence. Some people may have thought that I would stop doing this when I got a new job. That's not the case. That was never what it was about, right? It wasn't about land a new job and then stop posting on LinkedIn. That was never the goal. I'm sorry that I'm still posting on LinkedIn a year later. You're not gonna get rid of me on LinkedIn. Yes, you're not gonna get rid of me that quickly. I would say one big outcome, though, for me, Brad, I haven't really talked about this too much. I appreciate you giving me a forum to say it. It's just the big personal outcome for me of creating funny videos on LinkedIn has scratched a creator and comedy itch for me in a major way that I just almost can't even describe how important it's been for me personally. I remember in fifth grade, we had career day at my school, and you had to dress up like what you wanted to be when you grew up. And I dressed up as a comedian, and that meant a silly shirt and like a microphone. That was my comedian. And everyone was like, "What costume is this? It's not firefighter. What costume is this?" I was like, "Oh, it's the comedian." Weird costume, weird kid for sure. But the other day at the playground, just to bring this full circle, some other parent, you always make conversation at the playground with other parents. At least I do. It makes the time go by. This other parent asked me what I do for work. And for the first time since fifth grade, I felt like I made fifth grade me proud because I said I work in marketing at Microsoft and I make comedy videos for LinkedIn. And that is a reason to keep going, is just being able to close that part of my story that has been hanging there since I was 8 or 9 or 10 years old.
That is very powerful. And I think there's something I've learned a little bit along the way working with a few different founders. When you find the joy in this, enjoy the storytelling or the creativity, it just it powers the whole thing. It's a difference between pushing a rock up the hill and hitting escape velocity down the hill. I'm so happy you found that sweet spot. Gotta ask, now that you're at Microsoft, and are they asking you to trot this out for some of the internal influencers there?
Yeah, so a couple things on this. Clearly, my passion for LinkedIn creation is unbridled, and I try to bring it to everything I do, including my day job. A couple things I'm working on now, and I probably should create some LinkedIn content about this too, like just to totally be meta for a second. I should probably let people know some of the things I'm working on. One thing I'm working on in my division, so you mentioned I work on this team that's like Microsoft AI, but I specifically represent this subset of products called Microsoft Advertising product. And for these products, I'm working on a new employee influencer program. So I am trying to empower more of our employees at all levels of the company. They don't have to be executives. They could be junior employees, whoever, to create more for LinkedIn and become thought leaders themselves. I think, and my team manages a LinkedIn brand account for Microsoft, and I don't think that's going to go away. I'm not going to shut that account down anytime soon. But I do think that there is a diminishing role of those types of accounts and an increasing role for personal accounts. And so I think the more we can uplift individual creators at our company, empower them to have the resources that they need to create really impactful content on social media and tell more of our brand story there in an authentic way, that's just going to be a rising tide that lifts our ship. And then the second thing I am doing is, actually pretty soon, I'm going to be attending my first Microsoft event, like a customer and partner event, and I will be creating some videos there. So stay tuned for more on that, and I hope it goes well but yeah, hopefully by the time you guys are watching this, maybe it'll have just happened or it'll be happening soon. Hopefully, it'll go well and it'll give my leadership the idea that, hey, we should be doing this more and more, not only with Heike, but with other creators at our events and for these types of big brand moments as well.
Sounds like the dream job. And when you look at what LinkedIn has done for brands like Outreach and Gong, with a company the size of Microsoft, it could be super powerful.
Microsoft owns LinkedIn, which I always forget. But it's so true. We should be, I think this is where we're, headed is we're trying to get more closely aligned with empowering our employees to publish there.
So true. At a company that scale, like if just a fraction of the employees do it, it can be super impactful.
When I worked at Salesforce, I ran a podcast for a couple of years, and I used to always tell people if every sales rep at Salesforce subscribed to this podcast, we would be the #1 business podcast on iTunes. Employees just like they're so underutilized as part of the marketing engine.
Cool. To land the plane, I do have a couple of rapid fire questions I want to ask you.
I love it.
What is a LinkedIn trend or a feature that you wish you could change or would go away?
They need to fix the analytics, especially the video analytics. As somebody who primarily creates in the video format, I have videos where the hours watched I can't even explain to you how off it is compared to the number of impressions. Like the math just is not mathing. And so I would love for that to be.
It's definition based because a text post impression is, I think, greater than 0.3 seconds, and a video is greater than 3 seconds. So that's why it's like a 10x, like 1.5 million impressions, but 150,000 views. Okay, that's a great answer. I agree with you there. Who do you think is crushing it on LinkedIn? Or maybe it's the same. Who do you follow and learn from on LinkedIn?
One of my favorite people to follow right now is another person who is in the comedy realm, providing a much needed dose of laughter to our feeds. And it's my queen, Shali Rana Reed. You have to go follow Shali. She is posting not as much video content, although I keep telling her she would be amazing on TikTok if she wants to start a TikTok account. She posts a lot of text post jokes on LinkedIn. She is hilarious and she's just so fast. Sometimes there's 3 text posts in a row that are just like the baddest jokes, like just mic drop. They're hilarious. Much needed jokes in your feed. Go follow Shali.
Yes. Now I have a challenge. Who do I have on the podcast first, Devin or Shali? All right. 2 more questions. What advice do you give to someone who wants to build their LinkedIn presence, who is starting from day one?
I think just going back to what I said earlier, the taste gap is real. You're gonna have to start posting and it's not gonna meet your vision at first, but to close the taste gap, you have to start somewhere. So I would say get it to 80% done, get it to 70% done. If you're a perfectionist like me, and then call it a day and post the damn thing.
I love that too, because I think when you try to get to the 100%, it's a recipe for burnout. So
Yes.
just get it out there, ship it, treat it like a product,
Ship it.
get some feedback. Is there anything exciting happening on your end that you would like to share or promote?
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I can't wait to get my LinkedIn famous hat so I can wear it in some of my videos and content. I can't wait to get it. I would say, yeah, I've had a lot of folks ask me recently if I have a course or a book, and I don't have anything quite that long form just yet, but I am launching a Gumroad. And so if you don't know what Gumroad is, it's a way where you can buy mini guides, short courses, all kinds of things from your favorite creators. And I'm planning to launch like a 4-step LinkedIn content hooks framework guide ASAP. So by the time you publish this, I believe it will be live. It's going to be featured at the top of my profile when I do. So if you go to Heike Young, Heike, that's how you spell my first name, Young, Young, on LinkedIn, you find me and you look at the top of my featured profile. I'm going to give you some ways to grab quick guides from me, including some free ones. I'm also going to be doing a free guide on like my top vegan restaurants in LA. I'm going to be doing my top kids books that will be like just free downloads from me as well. So a combination of things for you to get from me. And if you do go the paid route, it'll be like the price of a nice latte. You'll be able to give back.
You can up the price a little bit more. Come on. I think you're worth 5 to 10 lattes for what it's worth. And
I remember there was this coffee shop in LA when I first moved here that had, it was like, it's supposed to be like a joke. It was called the $10 latte. This was at Alfred Coffee. If anybody knows Alfred, they had the $10 latte. And it was like supposed to be like outrageously overpriced. And now I've lived here for like over 10 years. Now it's not over. It's like a normal latte price. It's so sad. Inflation is so real.
It is. It is. I want to thank you so much for your time.
Of course. Thank you, Brad.
With your insights. And everybody go follow Heike. If you don't know who she is, you have to follow her. Coming soon. Get your vegan ebooks and your vertical video frameworks from Heike Young. Thank you so much, Heike. It's been amazing.
Thank you, Brad.
Much. I'm so excited.
It was a delight to talk
share
to you.
This story.
I'll see you on LinkedIn soon, my friend.
Yes. Until next time, let's stay connected. If you enjoyed this episode, follow Brad and Spectimer on LinkedIn for hot takes and tactical executive branding advice. For the readers in the audience, subscribe to LinkedIn Famous on Substack. And if you really loved this episode, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting platform of your choice. Until next time, stay bold, authentic, and keep on creating.